Two global movie stars are filming a major blockbuster inside a sprawling studio complex. He's known as the nicest man in Hollywood. She's admired for her talent and instincts. But during production, she starts noticing tiny things about him that don't match his public image. On a lonely night after shooting wraps, a simple invitation becomes the start of something terrifying, and the studio's long hallways, locked doors, and security cameras may be the only witnesses to the truth. Chapter 1. People love working with him. That's what everyone kept saying on our set, day after day, like a slogan printed on call sheets. The famous leading man, the one with the perfect smile and the charity headlines, the guy who remembered grips names and thanked the extras. And sure, he did all of that. But I'm a woman who has spent her whole life reading rooms. Acting teaches you that. You watch eyes. You listen to pauses. You notice what doesn't belong. The first detail was so small I almost laughed at myself for caring. He never blinked when I made a mistake. Most actors blink, look away, reset. He just stared, like he was memorizing the error. The second detail came during rehearsal. He stood too close, but only when the cameras weren't rolling. As soon as the director called action, he returned to the exact distance the blocking demanded. The third detail was the worst. When I joked with a crew member, his smile stayed in place, but something behind it hardened, like a switch flipped and then flipped back. Everyone thought he was lovely. In private, when no one was watching, I could feel the cynicism coming off him in cold waves. Like he didn't believe in people at all. Like he only believed in control. And lately, his attention wasn't on the movie. It was on me. Chapter 2. That night, shooting ran late. The studio felt different after midnight, like a city after a storm. The crew thinned out, voices faded, and the big soundstage turned into an empty warehouse full of fake walls. I packed slowly at my makeup station, listening to the faraway clank of equipment being rolled out. A safety supervisor I recognized had left earlier. A young production assistant waved goodnight and disappeared down the hallway. One by one, the building exhaled into silence. I told myself I was being dramatic. I told myself he was just intense. Then I saw him again, as if he'd been waiting for the exact moment we were alone. He walked toward me with 2 paper cups, casual and confident, like this was normal. "Long day," he said softly. "I thought we could grab dinner. Just us. There's a place still open." My stomach tightened. My instincts didn't shout. They whispered, which somehow felt worse. "That's kind," I said, keeping my voice gentle, professional. "But I'm exhausted." Rain check. For a beat, his expression didn't change at all. His smile stayed perfect, polite. Then he nodded. "Of course. Sleep. You earned it." He set 1 cup down anyway, like a gift I hadn't agreed to accept. At the doorway, he turned back and lifted a hand in a small wave. "Goodbye," he said, warm as a lullaby. And he walked out into the dark hallway. I waited, listening for footsteps. They faded. I told myself it was over. Chapter 3. I finished packing. Zipper. Script. Phone. Keys. My hands were steadier than I felt. When I finally turned away from the mirror bulbs and stepped into the open space of the soundstage, the shadows looked thicker, pooled between the tall set walls like trapped water. A work light buzzed. Behind a flat that was painted like a luxury apartment doorway, something moved. He stepped out. No smile this time. Just calm. Almost tender. In his hands was a huge axe, the kind you see in fire stations. It looked brutally real against the fake world around us. I couldn't make sound at first. My throat locked. He tilted his head, like he was disappointed I wasn't happy to see him. "You shouldn't have said no," he said quietly, as if explaining a simple rule. Then he took 1 step forward. My body decided for me. I ran. My shoes slapped the concrete as I sprinted between set pieces. I knocked into a rolling cart and it crashed, metal on metal. The sound echoed like a gunshot. Behind me, he didn't shout. He didn't rush. He followed like he had all night. I cut toward the backstage corridor, the one lined with pipes and warning signs. A door was half open. I shoved through it and tried to slam it shut. The axe handle stopped it with a violent jolt. Sparks jumped where metal scraped. His voice came through the crack, still gentle. "Don't make this hard." I threw my shoulder into the door again and again, fighting for 1 inch of space, 1 inch of life. It wasn't enough. I broke away and ran deeper into the studio maze. At a hallway intersection, a night security guard stepped out, startled by the noise, his neon vest catching the light. "Hey, what's going?" The axe rose and fell. I didn't stop to look. I couldn't. The sound that followed me down the hall was worse than any scream. The dull, final thud of something ending. My legs burned. My lungs felt too small. And still behind me, his footsteps stayed steady. Chapter 4. The studio turned into a nightmare you could measure in hallways. Left turn, framed movie posters behind glass. Right turn, a dark editing suite with sleeping monitors. Straight ahead, a fake street set with wet-down pavement that reflected the emergency lights like black water. I ran into the editing area and found a woman at a desk, headset around her neck, eyes confused. "Help me," I choked out. She started to stand. He appeared in the doorway as if he'd been there the whole time, the axe hanging at his side like an accessory. The woman's mouth opened, no sound coming out. He moved once. She didn't get a second chance. I bolted back out, tears blurring the edges of the world. I could feel my mind trying to disconnect, trying to make this unreal, like a scene we could cut and reshoot. But the smell was real. The fear was real. On the prop storage aisle, a young production assistant stepped into view, drawn by the noise. His eyes went wide at the sight of the axe. "Call 911. I screamed. The assistant fumbled for his phone. The axe came down before the screen even lit. I slammed a stack of boxes onto the floor to slow the man chasing me. The boxes burst open, spilling foam rocks and fake weapons. He stepped over them like they were nothing. I grabbed a long metal pole from a rigging cart near the loading bay and turned, bracing myself. He swung. I blocked. The impact rattled my bones all the way up into my teeth. He smiled then. Not the public smile. Not the charming one. A private smile that said he'd been waiting to show me who he really was. We crashed into the fake street set, between storefront facades and puddles of reflected light. He swung again. I knocked the axe aside with the pole and ran, barely keeping my footing. I fled into a narrow stairwell, buzzing with fluorescent light. I pressed myself against the wall, holding my breath. Above me, the axe head slid into view between the railings, dangling like a promise. His footsteps creaked down one step, then another. I burst out of the stairwell before he could descend fully, sprinting blind into another service corridor, praying for an exit sign, a door, anything. The corridor ended. A dead end. Chapter 5. The service corridor smelled like paint and dust. Buckets lined the wall. A rolling cart sat abandoned, loaded with underwater scene props. Coils of rope, fake seaweed, and something that didn't belong in a movie studio at all. A harpoon gun. I stared at it like it was a miracle. Behind me, the steady footsteps returned, closer now, filling the hallway like a metronome. He stepped into the corridor entrance, blocking the only way out. Axe lifted slowly, as if he wanted me to understand there would be no bargaining. "I did everything right," he said, voice calm, almost hurt. "I was good. I was patient. I let you see what you wanted to see." My hands shook as I grabbed the harpoon gun. It was heavier than I expected, cold metal biting into my palms. He took a step forward. "I'm the only person here who actually knows you," he continued. "The rest of them just watch you." He raised the axe higher. I braced the harpoon gun against my shoulder the way I'd seen in behind-the-scenes clips, praying it worked like it was supposed to, praying the prop team hadn't replaced it with a harmless replica. My finger found the trigger. He lunged. I fired. The harpoon launched with a brutal snap, line hissing out behind it. The force knocked me back into the wall. He jerked as it hit. The axe slipped from his hand and clanged onto the floor. For the first time all night, his face showed something human. Shock. He staggered, tried to take another step, then his knees buckled. Silence rushed into the space where his footsteps had been. I slid down the wall, shaking so hard my teeth clicked. My hands wouldn't open. My brain kept waiting for him to stand back up, for the scene to keep going. But it didn't. Somewhere far away, alarms began to ring. Doors banged open. Voices shouted. And then the studio wasn't lonely anymore. Chapter 6. Dawn came grey and cold over the studio gates. Police tape fluttered in the wind. Flashing lights painted the glass doors. Crew members stood in blankets, faces hollow with disbelief. I stood apart in my trench coat, staring at my shoes like they belonged to someone else. Inside, in a small interview room, I wrapped both hands around a paper cup I couldn't taste. My forearm stung where I'd been cut in the stairwell, but the pain felt distant, like it had happened to a character I played. They asked me to tell the story again. So I did. And then they showed me the security footage. Angle after angle. Hallways. Intersections. The editing suite doorway. The loading bay. The corridor. Timestamps. Clear images. No missing pieces. The truth. Recorded by the studio itself. The officers' faces changed as they watched. Not confusion. Not doubt. Understanding. Later outside, reporters gathered near microphone stands, hungry for headlines. I kept my head down as flashes popped. I didn't want fame. I didn't want a story. I wanted the night to be undone. But it couldn't be. What I remember most, even now, isn't the axe. It's the way he said goodbye earlier, gentle and polite, like a man everyone trusted, like a lovely person. And how close I came to being the only one who knew what he really was. If you made it to the end, thank you for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications so you don't miss the next story, give this video a like, leave a comment with what you would have done in that hallway, and share this video with a friend who loves scary stories.